What's going on, everybody? It's waiver wire time. This waiver wire for week going into week 11. This is a big one.
Yeah,
This is a big one. We have had some quiet weeks over the past couple of weeks in terms of like who are we adding on waivers. Like I remember a couple of weeks ago after the trade deadline, like I had like Chase Edmonds near the top. It's like it was bad.
yeah.
It was bad. But if a few of these guys that we're about to mention, like I would say in the top, 5-6 guys, this is the week to pounce. If you have some fab left over, this is the week to spend it all. Okay. Maybe grab a couple guys if you can, right? Depending on your league, right? Can you get away with throwing like 50% of fab on one guy, 50% on another? Will you have to drop it all on one guy? You know your league best. We'll give recommendations, but you know your league, so spend accordingly. But you want to get these guys on your roster. There's no reason to save your fab for anything else.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna be a little bit hypocritical. You can see I haven't spent hardly any of my fab this year. I don't think I have. I have a bunch yet. So I would say, yeah, spend up now because there actually are, like you said, you mentioned the top 5-6 guys that we're gonna talk about. They have a chance to be actual serious fantasy contributors down the stretch. This isn't like any type of maybe they'll have an impact. A couple of weeks down the road. It's like no, these guys have a chance to be immediate impact and also have a lot of value going forward. As long as they keep playing.
There's some league winning upside in a couple of these guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a second, but let's just quickly talk about the Eagles last night. They got their first loss of the season. Yes. I'm sure that makes you happy.
Oh yeah,
for sure. As a Cowboys fan, but the NFC is pretty tight right now, dude. Giants 7, obviously Eagles 1 loss, Giants 7-2, Cowboys 6-3, and then the Commanders are at 500.
Yeah,
they're 5-5.
That's actually interesting to me. I can't believe the turnaround that it's been in the NFC East. Dallas really could have used that win last week. Now, they really could have used it, but I think they'll be fine anyway. It looks like the NFC East is going to have 3 teams in the playoffs, but remains to be seen. I'm not worried about any team just yet. They all look competitive, which is nice. It's nice to have that for a change. It's not like, Dallas is just running it, but at the same time, yeah, I'm just happy the Eagles lost.
I feel you.
Historically, the Commanders have been the fraud finders. If you remember back in 2020, Ron Rivera was coaching there, and they beat the Steelers on the road on Monday night, and they just did the same thing against the Eagles. So hopefully, as a Cowboys fan, those Eagles will lose out in the first round of playoffs. The Eagles are still a good team. They got screwed by some play calling in that game.
Oh my God. They got screwed by a couple of things, man.
Yeah.
Right.
The Dallas Goedert fumble. Yeah.
That's the face. That was such a it's funny because so if you didn't watch the game, what happened was Dallas Goedert, he had the ball in his hands. He was making his way downfield. He was getting tackled, but he literally, like, the defender grabbed the entire face mask and pulled him down with the face mask, and he fumbled, and there was a no call on the fumble, which is incredible because, like, if you're gonna review that play,
it's obvious.
You're not gonna, what I'm saying? Like, it's weird. What is the rule on that? Are they not allowed to call the penalty post review?
No.
Is that what it was?
I think that's what it is. I mean, I'm not like Mike Pereira coming in here and telling you what the rules are. I'm
Mike
not like
Pereira, former NFL official.
Yeah, let's go to a rules analyst here. No, but I think the rule is they tried it out a couple of years ago, if you remember, with pass interference where you could review it. And
yeah, I remember that.
That was just not only did they hardly ever win those calls, but it just left too much up in the air. You have to just err on the side of the refs in this instance. I think they said they just gave up on that. They weren't going to have any type of challenge. And the same thing happened with this face mask. You can't go back and look at a play and call a penalty. The only play that they really get a little leeway is on an intentional grounding call. We've seen that happen where, the refs will discuss it after the fact and determine whether there is an intentional grounding call or not. But outside of that, it's, you call it or you don't. We saw that also. What spurred on the pass interference review for that 1 year was that divisional round game between the Saints and the Rams when Nikel Roby-Coleman just blasted. I forget who it was, but obvious pass interference. That's what caused that to happen. But at that point, you can't go back and call the penalty. It's just how it happened.
Yeah, man. They need to change that though, because when it's as obvious as that, like when you can see it in the replay, like you gotta be like, hey, you know what? It was actually a face mask penalty on. It's just straight up like that's what you gotta do.
Especially, with the outcome of the play being a turnover. They say all turnovers are reviewed, Like that one, obviously, he's not going to lose the ball if he doesn't get his face mask ripped at. Like, what are you supposed to do at that point?
Exactly. Maybe on just automatic reviews, you review the penalty, any potential penalties, like a face mask. Maybe not pass interference. Okay, maybe you don't call that because that becomes super subjective when it goes into slow motion. But a face mask is just objective, right? If you can see it, it is a face mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no subjectivity with that.
There's no gray area. Like with a holding call, which holding calls, I still can't believe they're 10 yards. That makes me really annoyed. But
I know.
I can't believe
yards.
Yeah. Like, okay.
It is a lot. But I feel like if it was 5, it would happen way more often.
Well, I don't think it would cause any team to be like, oh, well, now we can get away with holding. It's only 5 yards. Obviously, that still hurts you. But I feel like 10 yards, a defensive holding call is only 5 yards. And an offensive holding call puts you back 10. It just doesn't make sense for me.
I guess. Well, the offense has so many advantages already. But yeah,
they're catering to the offense with the rules and the changes that they made. But
the other thing that happened in that game, which was terrible, was Taylor Heinicke dropped back. He randomly took a knee, 7 or 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the
Eagles tackled
him. Brandon Graham just went ahead and just tackled him.
Yeah,
took him to the ground, and the refs called the flag. And because of that, I think that was 3rd down. It would have been 4th with a minute and a half left.
Yep.
The ball would have went back to the Eagles, and the Eagles would have had a chance to win the game. But they called it a flag. It was a 1st down Washington, and the Commanders won the game.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so with that one, yes, all of these roughing the passer penalties, majority of them are BS. It's just the way that they've been
This one was super interesting because he gave himself up, but he gave himself up as the defenders were kind of coming after him, right? I don't know if the defenders knew that he was giving himself up. Should they? Do you think they should? Because I think that's the what people wonder. Should they have known that the quarterback gave himself up on that play?
I think they should know. They've seen the way they've been calling these roughing the passer penalties. They should know. Okay, he's down on his knee. All you gotta do, Brandon Graham, just run past him and touch him on the shoulder pad. That's all you gotta do.
True.
He went down with him, and that was kind of obvious. I could see why they called that, just the way they've been calling it. But the thing that didn't make sense to me is that if you're Taylor Heinicke, what do you do? I mean, I know that you're going down just to run the clock maybe a little bit. I don't know if they had any timeouts, but unless that penalty happens, what kind of decision is that to just take a knee down there? You know what I'm saying? You move yourself back that many yards. He got bailed out by that call.
He did get bailed out, and he acted like he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
after that happened.
I mean, I love seeing the enthusiasm, but it's just it was funny watching that. But he got bailed out big time on that one because I don't know what that decision was.
Terry McLaurin, man, what a big game from him. Making plays all night long in a tough matchup. Matched up with Darius Slayton most of that game. Caught 8 balls for 128 yards, 38% target share. His target share has gone up in 4 straight games. Taylor Heinicke is locked onto him right now, and you can't leave McLaurin out of your lineup at all at this point.
No.
I mean, even coming into this game, we knew it was a tough matchup, but it was hard not to start him because you knew he was going to get his targets.
Yeah, not with Taylor Heinicke quarterback. You can't leave Terry McLaurin out. We saw Carson Wentz throwing, and he wasn't dialed in with Terry McLaurin. He didn't even seem interested in throwing to him. Remember that Jahan Dotson had 4 touchdowns, I think, through 3 games.
Yeah. And Curtis Samuel was getting 9 targets a game, and look what's going on with Heinicke. Heinicke's giving 2 targets a game.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Curtis Samuel is a non-factor.
Yeah, so Taylor Heinicke is good for Terry McLaurin, and Carson Wentz is good for everybody else. But the way Taylor Heinicke is playing, he's playing way better. He has way more heart than Carson Wentz at this point. He's been there for a little while, and he's been out of the lineup. I love watching Taylor Heinicke play, even though he's on and off. But with these receivers, he has single-handedly brought Terry McLaurin back into relevance. What we're talking about? Curtis Samuel, like you said, pretty much a non-factor. Even though last week he did catch, it was him on the touchdown, right?
It was a long touchdown, but he still didn't get the targets. I think he only caught 1 or 2 balls in that game.
Right. So outside of that, I mean, there's not really anybody else that he's looking for. I think that Terry McLaurin should definitely be in your lineup, and he might be a solid wide receiver too, with high wide receiver 2 upside because of the way this offense has been playing. They looked good last night. The ball control was pretty. Ball control was
the name of the game. And let's get right into that. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, they combined for 40 carries in this game. The run game was a big reason the Commanders were able to sustain drives. A lot of converted short gains for first downs. right? And that was really the name of the game, and that's partly why we saw such a low yard per carry output, for these guys. I will say this though. This is an amazing sell window for Brian Robinson.
Oh yeah.
If you have him, congratulations. Like, this is exactly what you were looking for. He had like 26 carries in this game.
Yeah.
Move him now while you still have a chance. And Antonio Gibson, he's still involved with the goal line, right? That goal line touchdown is not guaranteed for Robinson if the Commanders get to the goal line moving forward. They split goal line snaps down the middle. So just keep that in mind. Now he has Houston next week, right?
Yeah.
So, and no, I am not keeping him for that game. Like, what I rather do is use that as a selling point to my trade partner to say, hey, Brian, I'm literally going to hit him up. Be like, yo, man, Brian Robinson got Houston next week. You want him? He just had 26 carries for a touchdown. You want him? Like, that's how I would sell him, because you never know what's going to happen next week, right? Like, yes, it's a good matchup, but like, maybe Antonio Gibson, gets more carries. Maybe he's the one who has the good game. And, Brian Robinson, who, I think is not the best running back in the world, he might not kill it, right? He might end up with 12 carries for, 57 yards, and that's it. He might have a good yards per carry output, but that's about it.
Yeah. Brian Robinson, the yards per carry last night wasn't that good.
No, it wasn't.
26 carries, 86 yards.
But and that's why I had to preface it with, the fact that he did convert a bunch of those short, like those like short yardage gains. You know what I mean? So a lot of those situations were like, go get me a yard type of thing, and he got a lot of those. So that's why, it's a little deceiving, especially last night, because there was so many of them.
Yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. If going into this game, you told me that by the end it would be Brian Robinson with 26 carries against the Eagles, I'd be like, you're crazy. Like, the Eagles are supposed to be up in this game,
Oh yeah.
Antonio Gibson's supposed to be catching 6 or 7 balls. Brian Robinson should only be used on the goal line, and he should only put up, 30 yards, maybe rushing. He put up 86 on 26 carries. This went completely against what I was expecting for this game. The running backs look good, and like you said, and I was going to bring it up if you didn't, about Brian Robinson in the sell window.
Okay.
I actually have him in one of my leagues, an hour league, I think it is. And
I'll buy him.
I left.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I left him on my bench, and actually, I put in Tyler Algier over him this week, and he put up 3 points. And then Brian Robinson has 26 carries, 86 yards, touchdown.
Did you get the win?
Yeah, I won. It was fine. I'm
Must
not
be nice.
I was.
Must
I
be
wasn't
nice.
sweating it too much. I'm 5-5, back at 500. I'm ready to make a push. I was
Me
actually
and you
looking.
are both 5-5 in this. Oh God.
How many teams are 5-5 in our league? I'm looking at it right now. There's
like
a ton.
5 of them.
Yeah,
There's like 5
1,
5
2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 5, and 5 teams. Everybody is within 4 and 6 or 6 and 4, except the top 2 and bottom 2.
Yeah.
So it's a really competitive league.
It's super close.
But I don't know. I want to try.
My team is so much better than yours. Like, it's not even funny.
That's not even.
Like, it's not.
Get out of here. I have Justin Fields. I'm riding him to the end, dude. He has single-handedly won me the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Put up 80 points over the past 2 weeks.
That's going to be he's going to be that deciding factor for you, pretty much.
He has been. That's the whole reason. Like Devontae Adams, he's been doing his thing. That they're like my core 2. Amari Cooper comes and goes. I have him on my team. Justin Herbert, he's been mediocre, which is really disappointing because I was really big on him.
It's amazing that the best Justin you have like at quarterback is Justin Fields.
Well, that's the whole reason I took Justin Fields. It's like the upside. This is what I was kind of hoping he would do, but Justin Herbert isn't doing it. He has a better schedule coming up, Justin Herbert does, so I have a little bit of hope for him. I'm not necessarily going to call him a buy just because he has no weapon still, but as his receivers come back, he could get a little bit better. But I digress about that. With the running backs and Washington,
that was my fault.
No, it's fine. It wasn't the game that I was expecting, but I'm very happy with this. Both Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson now are in good spots to be trade pieces if you want to move them, or you can go get Antonio Gibson. He didn't have a huge game, if you want to, but the usage is definitely there. He's getting all the much more valuable touches than Brian Robinson.
Yeah, and I'll give up Brian Robinson and Devontae Smith for try to get Dameon Pierce from that this week. Try to get even James Conner. The dude played 90% more than 90% of snaps in this game. They just dropped Eno Benjamin.
Yeah,
the Cardinals dropped Eno Benjamin, which is super weird.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I saw that.
I don't know either, man. Apparently, the reports were that he was surprised by the move. Like,
really?
It kind of makes no sense.
He was starting 2 weeks ago, right? Like,
it was weird, man. I don't
understand. Maybe it's just a vote of confidence for James Conner. So maybe we should be buying
up.
But
why? Why would you have a vote of confidence in James Conner? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
like, what if he gets hurt? What are you going to do?
Is Darrell Williams coming off IR? Could that
Not
be a
yet.
reason?
No,
I
he's
don't
not
know
coming off
who
IR.
do they have behind him. Are they gonna put Kyler Murray back there? Colt McCoy quarterback, Kyler Murray at running back? Like, what are they gonna do?
Listen, if you were stashing Eno Benjamin, it is Eno Benjamin. If you were stashing
Yes.
Eno Benjamin, I wouldn't drop him just yet because I want to see if he gets picked up, and I want to see where he gets picked up.
It's not looking good. I don't think.
No.
But
yeah, I if you have to drop him for like one of these top 5 guys, like I would when we get to the waiver wires. But like outside of that, I'm not sure if I would.
The bottom line with Eno Benjamin is I don't think he's gonna be a difference maker anywhere. I think he's just gonna go. He might be a depth addition somewhere. I'm not expecting too much.
He can be, yeah. It's only there might be just a couple teams they could use him, but like I can't really think of too many on top of my head. You might be right.
He has achieved his peak value already this year.
Another guy, Brian Robinson, Devontae Smith, Damian Pierce. I mentioned him. I mentioned James Conner, Jeff Wilson, like even him. Like you get the point, right? Like just aim for these like that RB2 range. Damian Pierce is probably a low end RB1. He just had a bad game, so he would be the ideal target.
You know how I have Damian Pierce ranked. He's my RB 1.5, and I should put a post out on that or something because he is the 1.5. I could talk about that all day. I love Damian Pierce, just don't love the offense.
I hear you. All right, let's get into these waiver wire pickups. Like I said, big waiver wire week. These guys have some of these guys have league winning ability. But starting at number 1, Christian Watson. He has league winning ability. Okay.
Yeah.
His first game back with the team after hamstring injuries, after concussions, almost concussions, he gets a 40% target share. Like Aaron Rodgers was waiting for this to happen. No other wide receiver has ever got a 40% target share this year. Okay, 4 balls, 8 targets, 3 touchdowns. It looked like Aaron Rodgers knew exactly what he had in Christian Watson. He didn't play more than 30% of snaps since week 1. And that was after he missed a ton of time in training camp and preseason with the hamstring injury. He didn't really know the offense like that either. They were giving him end arounds and stuff like that. But a couple of weeks ago, their OC did say that they can give Christian Watson everything. Like they have confidence that he has everything. He has all the packages. It's just that they need him to play. And he did. And he's a freak. He's one of the fastest wide receivers in the league already. Like he had a 95th percentile burst score, and a 97th percentile catch radius score, 95% speed score, all in player profiler. So I would not be surprised if he continues to get a high target share from Aaron Rodgers. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a higher target share than Allen Lazard. Like I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah.
He was a 2nd round pick. He has Aaron Rodgers, who has been looking for a reliable wide receiver 1. So I wouldn't overthink this one. Like I know like so many people are like, yo, like, is he going to continue? He's going to have 2 points next week. On a per route basis, only Chris Olave and Drake London have been targeted at a higher route among rookie wide receivers so far this year. I know it's a small sample size, but it's worth noting. And if I need a wide receiver to potentially put me over the top, I'm throwing all of my remaining fab at Christian Watson.
Yeah, and Christian Watson, like I said, this is the type of performance he needed. After being in and out of the lineup, concussions the whole time, this is a confidence-building performance that is going to establish a connection with him and Aaron Rodgers. And down the stretch, the Packers, they looked really bad, obviously. We don't want to discount how bad they looked the 5 weeks going into this game against Dallas, but they look good against Dallas. And I think this can continue. Now, Aaron Rodgers, like we said, he was fist pumping yesterday. He was looking like he's back in it. We're back in it, baby. That's what he was saying. He has Christian Watson now, who looks like he's going to be a legit threat. You're not going to find anybody else like this on the waiver wire the rest of the way, I don't think. Everybody else, yeah.
You look at the schedule, it's not that bad.
No, this is really an extreme upside player right here. And I don't think his floor is that bad either, because given the way the rest of the Packers receiving core is played, they don't have anything to lose by just throwing a Christian Watson's way 10 times a game. And they should be doing that, at this point. The passing offense has been anemic up until 2 days ago in Dallas. Not in Dallas, in Green Bay, for Green Bay. But Christian Watson, he is a clear pick right now. I wish he was on our waiver wire. I'll go get him. But you have him.
I do. And I wish I started him last week. But hey, I have him. I'm happy.
Could you have seen this coming, though? Right? Great that it happened, but you couldn't have seen it coming.
3 touchdowns? No, I didn't see that happening. Now, the reason why I kept up picking him up like every single week before like he got hurt, I literally had him on my bench. I would say I had him on my bench during these Sunday games, probably 3 Sundays in a row.
Yeah.
Before this past week. It's because I'm a believer, dude. Like I'm a fan of Christian Watson. Like saw him at the Senior Bowl. Like I know what he's capable of. Like, and Aaron Rodgers is looking for that guy. And then when Romeo Doubs went down, I'm like, all right, this is his opportunity. So, I didn't think this was going to happen, but I'm not surprised, to be honest. And what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Packers schedule. Titans this week, not bad at all. Eagles the following week. Okay. Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings.
Sounds good.
Championship week, Christian Watson against the Vikings.
I like it. And Packers fighting maybe for a playoff spot? Yeah.
Oh.
I think so.
You never know. Okay. But yeah.
Gotta think about these things. Gotta think about these.
I was struggling between ranking Isiah Pacheco second or Kadarius Toney. And I guess it's really about what you need, right? And
yeah.
I have Pacheco at number 2 right now, but Kadarius Toney is at 3, Parris Campbell's at 4. But real quick, if you need a running back, right, kind of like similar like on the Watson side, like if you needed a wide receiver to put you over the top, you grab Watson. If you needed a running back to put you over the top, I might just throw the rest of my fab at Pacheco, given what happened this week. The Chiefs gave up on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had no touches. He was on the field for only 4 snaps. The running back touches like being distributed between 2 running backs now instead of 3. Pacheco being the early down guy, McKinnon being the passing down guy is way better. And usually, like, we don't want to overvalue these, like, early down running backs. But this is the Chiefs' offense, right? Like, it's less about the volume Pacheco can get, but more about, like, what the fact that he's on the field. He's running some routes, red zone usage, right? Better positions to score. I can see some volatility here for Pacheco, like, moving forward to the rest of the season, especially if McKinnon stays healthy. However, there aren't going to be waiver wire running backs like this coming up maybe for the rest of the fantasy season. So if you're in dire needs of a running back and you're starting like, these random dudes,
if you're starting Darrell Henderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
Or like, these random dudes, like I would pick him up, man, and I would spend big and I would lock up my RB2 spot, if that's what you need, right? Yeah. Because I think, I might not rank him as a top 24 running back. I gotta really check that, but it's possible I will. But I would say he's like an RB3, high-end RB3 flex play type of play. That's how I'm ranking him. But like, this is a situation where Pacheco can be a league-winning running back. If remember the touchdowns that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was scoring early on in the year, he would get like 7 touches and then
2
like
touchdowns,
a touchdown or 2. Yeah. We can see something similar with Pacheco, except him getting that work in near the red zone, but also getting like, 10 to 15 touches on top of that. So that's why he's valuable, on this amazing offense. So both of these Chiefs, Isiah Pacheco, and I'll talk about Kadarius Toney in a minute, but how are you viewing Pacheco here if he's available on your waiver wire?
I mean, I pick him up. I think that's the bottom line. You just pretty much explained away everything.
How much fab though, right? I feel like are you breaking the bank on him? Like obviously, I think Christian Watson's probably available in almost every waiver wire, unless you're in a really deep league.
His ownership, I think, on sleepers like 17%. Christian Watson. So
okay, Pacheco's around 50. I was honestly surprised that Pacheco was that available.
Yeah, that available. You think it's a little low? His ownership?
I think it's low.
I think it's a little high. I don't know, for the way he was playing. I know he started, quote unquote, the game a couple weeks ago, but his workload is exactly what we've kind of been staying away from. It's just the early down, and he wasn't scoring touchdowns or anything. Obviously Patrick Mahomes was doing that. But at this point, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the picture, I think that Isiah Pacheco could be a good pickup for you. I don't think he's a slam dunk. I think he's a very good pickup though at running back, just given the offense that he's on and what we've seen from him. He's talented. He can run the ball. It's just his workload, the type of work he's been getting, it doesn't scream out to me, pick me up as much as maybe Kadarius Toney. I would switch them two. And for me, the story
I had Kadarius Toney at 2. I did, and I switched it last minute. Maybe I should stop making these last minute switches. What do you think?
Yeah, you just said about it yesterday on the podcast about those last minute decisions screw you out of win. But what I'm saying is, for me, the story of this week's waiver wire, it's the 3 receivers that we have in the top 5. It's Christian Watson, Kadarius Toney, and Parris Campbell. All 3 of them can be really nice pickups for you move forward. And the running backs are good too. I just think that the wide receivers present a lot more value.
I feel you. So if Pacheco was available, let's say you have like $65 left in your fab. You had $100 budget for the season. How much of that 65? And let's say you're set at wide receiver. And I guess you're probably still picking up Christian Watson, is my assumption. But if you needed a running back, how much of that $65 would you be spending?
I would maybe put that. I think 25 would be
You ain't
where
getting
I'm
them.
at. I would put 25. I'm not. I mean, I guess if you're in
What if you
dire need
really
of
needed a
running back,
running back?
if you're in dire need of running back,
If you
then
don't have
maybe
an RB2,
50
reliable
minimum.
RB2,
50 minimum. I
50
think.
minimum makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
50 minimum. I'm not sure what
It's
you're
like,
putting down. If you're trying to get, you're not gonna be able to get Christian Watson and Isiah Pacheco in fab format. I don't think
no.
that's gonna work. But Isiah Pacheco, he's gonna be the cheaper of the two, but he's still gonna be expensive.
If I had like $80 of fab, I would put it all on Christian Watson.
Yeah. I mean,
obviously, you have to check to see the rest of your league to see like how much fab they have,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't put 80 if like the next highest is like 72.
Yeah.
Right. Like, put 73.
Just play that game. Are you trying to inflate these prices a little bit for our league?
I'm not trading Christian Watson.
Pacheco. Dude. Oh no, I'm not saying you should. Like I said.
For Pacheco?
Yeah.
No, I'm not, because I only have $10 of fab left.
So you wouldn't even have to worry about this.
If I was trying to do anything with Pacheco, like, remember, I just dropped him, right? So like, I would be deflating his value. I would have put him at like number 12 here.
I guess
send these rankings to all of my league mates. Be like, he sucks. Don't pick him up. Look where I have him.
It's on a special fancy graphic.
It's a trap, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him.
No.
But I'm okay because I have the next guy, Kadarius Toney.
I would be okay with not getting Pacheco if I were, Of course, it would be nicer if you had him on your bench just sitting there, but I wouldn't be sweating it. My opinion is you're fine.
I think I'm fine because I got Christian McCaffrey in that league. I have Jonathan Taylor in the league, and I have Travis Etienne. Yeah, little flex. Just want to flex on him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Little flex. Okay. Anyway, okay. So I said that I was a little surprised about Pacheco's rostership. I'm very surprised about Kadarius Toney. I did not think he was going to be available in 50% of leagues, especially after the trade. And I guess people didn't like what happened in his first week with Kansas City, but it's like, well, what did you expect? He wasn't going to learn the whole offense. This is the Andy Reid offense, right? It's not. Yeah. This is a tough offense to learn, but like he hardly had any snaps in week 1, but he was targeted at a relatively high rate based on what he was, based on the fact that he was on the field. Same thing this week. He showed what he's capable of, right? 44% of snaps. That's it. But he was targeted on 31% of his routes. He had 6 touches in this game, totaled 90 yards, right? So, like, that's pretty efficient. And in the run game, they're going to use him in the run game. They're going to use him in the pass game. He had a contested catch that was amazing, where they kept on showing him adjusting his gloves, right before that catch. He's just what's the word? What's the word when you don't do things normally? Like, there's a word for that. He is very unconventional. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Zach. Yeah. He's he's unconventional in all facets of the game. He is a very unconventional route runner. Like, he doesn't run routes like, he doesn't look up to Stephon Diggs when he's running routes. You know what I'm saying? He's not
look up to anybody. Hunter
Renfrow? Look up to anybody. I have no idea, dude.
Hunter Renfrow. He runs some interesting routes.
But Renfrow's a good route. Like, he's a good. I would say he's a conventional route runner in terms of.
I don't think he's conventional. I think he's kind of made his own way. If you watch, there's a lot. He chops his feet a lot, but it works. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I guess Kadarius Toney does weird things with his body when he's running routes. Like, you saw it like in the Titans game the week before. But yeah, man, like, I expect his route participation to increase moving forward. Like, I expect his snaps to increase. And, I think it'll be regardless of who's on the field, right? Like, Juju might be out next week with that concussion, and Toney can benefit from that, but I'm not really basing any decisions around that. And, Toney looks like he can be a serious weapon for this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the wide receiver that you want on the Chiefs in a couple of weeks. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, even over Juju. They wouldn't have traded for Toney. Like, if you think about Mecole Hardman being out too, like, they wouldn't have traded for Toney if they thought they could get by with Mecole Hardman. Like, they're going for it with Toney, and he's going to get his role, and he looked great in this game, and I'm spending a ton of fab on him as well if he's available. And I think next week you can start him as like an upside flex play. I might have a tough time not ranking him as like a low end wide receiver 3, with upside, even if he has another game of, relatively limited playing time.
Mm-hmm. I think Kadarius Toney, and I said about this yesterday, he looks as close to Tyreek Hill as Chiefs have had since Tyreek Hill left. And I wouldn't be surprised. He runs around. He's twitchy just like Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if he kind of steps in to be the wide receiver 1. Remember what Patrick Mahomes was able to do with Tyreek Hill. I mean, we know Tyreek Hill's doing his thing down in Miami, and you don't want to discount what he did in Kansas City. But Remember what that was? And I just look at Kadarius Toney. It just reminds me of Tyreek Hill in this offense. He's going to be able to take the top off the defense. He's going to be able to catch all the intermediate passes. I think that he has a really good shot at, just kind of growing into this offense really quickly and becoming a go-to for Patrick Mahomes really early. I'm big on Kadarius Toney this week for the waiver wire. And the thing is, you say, we're buying Kadarius Toney. We're buying Isiah Pacheco. We're buying Christian Watson off of this waiver wire using your fab. The thing that this waiver wire week has is options. You don't usually have a bunch of clear options like this. There are a bunch of good options, and that might help actually. We talk about these guys being so expensive in terms of fab. It might help deflate their value a little bit because a lot of the fab's going to be spread out. I don't think you're going to have guys in your league trying to spend 20 here trying to get everybody. Obviously, that's not going to net you any players. But if a bunch of guys go in on Christian Watson, a bunch of guys go in on Isiah Pacheco, a bunch of guys go in on Kadarius Toney. Like, there are so many different options this week. It's just insane. I love all of them. Christian Watson is the easy pick because he's, in line for the clearest workload increase moving forward. But Kadarius Toney, I think, is a close second for me because I see his skill set, the way he plays. He seems happy to be in Kansas City compared to New York, and that is understandable. Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. If they get any type of connection, Kadarius Toney could be huge down the stretch.
Yeah, man. And Parris Campbell's another guy who you can pick up, in the top 4. He's simply coming on in this offense, right? He's catching balls down the field. He's making things happen after the catch. He's doing things out of the slot. And this makes me happy because I've loved Parris Campbell since he joined the league, coming out of Ohio State. And, Matt Ryan is back. They won. Expect Matt Ryan to keep his job. Yeah. And with Matt Ryan, Campbell has averaged more than 20 PPR fantasy points per game over the last 3 games together. Caught a touchdown in each of those games. And, Campbell might be the most reliable option out of all these guys. If you're like, all right, well, who is the best bet to continue producing, and getting targets is probably Campbell, but he just doesn't have the upside like Kadarius Toney has and Christian Watson has.
Yeah. No, I hear you. This kind of reminds me, obviously Parris Campbell and, Michael Pittman are a little bit different, but Matt Ryan had a similar situation in Atlanta when he had Julio Jones and Russell Gage. And you'd think he'd be throwing Julio Jones, the big body playmaker. Michael Pittman, big body playmaker. He's supposed to be the wide receiver 1, but Russell Gage just always had these games down when he was in Atlanta. And now Parris Campbell's coming on in that role. We've seen this from Matt Ryan before. Matt Ryan is doing his thing. I sincerely hope he keeps his job the rest of the way. The offense looks so much better with Matt Ryan, even though it's still limited relatively. But with Jonathan Taylor coming back and looking good, this has a chance to be a better offense than we think it's going to be, than what we remember with Matt Ryan earlier in the season. This is going to be a really good pickup for you. He could be a really nice consolation prize if you don't feel like breaking the bank or you don't have the fab to break the bank on guys. They're obviously Christian Watson, Kadarius Toney, Parris Campbell. He could be a nice under the radar ad, even though he has. I'm not sure he has the upside, but the floor is really nice. He's going to be a good solid starter for you each week. I kind of liken him. The way he's been producing reminds me of Jacoby Myers, the production that he's been having, kind of flying under the radar. So he'll be a nice starter for you. You can start Jacoby Myers every week. That's what I see for Parris Campbell moving forward.
I'm probably ranking him as a high-end wide receiver 3 this coming week.
Yeah, he's borderline top 24.
Yeah, I would say so. Okay, awesome. Rachaad White makes his way to this list again. Surprise. Yep.
What's one I didn't understand.
Around 50, right around 50% on all platforms. Actually, on Sleeper he's at 50. On Yahoo and ESPN he's way lower, which is I don't understand this one because the writing was on the wall for 6 weeks now. We've been talking about it on this podcast, this Leonard Fournette situation for weeks, and we've been talking about the utilization this whole time, and that's why we've been talking about it. It's been going up and down. But Rachaad White started the game, in Germany against the Seahawks, and before Leonard Fournette got hurt, White had the edge in snaps. Okay, so this can be a 50-50 going forward, meaning that White can have some standalone value. The Bucks are on bye this week. Fournette has a hip pointer injury, but he is expected to be back after the bye. Who knows? But I would assume that he will be back. But it's possible that White starts that game again and leads that backfield with Fournette a little bit banged up. It's possible. And even if he's not banged up, it's possible. So they're playing the Browns out of the bye. It's a great matchup for these running backs. Don't ask me who I'd rather play because I have to think about that one.
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to rank them this week.
This
So you
week,
got time.
exactly. I got
That's
some
really
time.
good. Yeah. We'll see how things develop with the Fournette injury. But you're talking about the utilization, the writing being on the wall. Kind of shifting more towards Rachaad White before the injury. Now the injury happened. Could it give the Bucs an excuse to be like, yeah, let's use Rachaad White a little bit more and just kind of leave?
Rachaad,
You know what I'm
Rachaad
saying?
White wishes that there was no bye this week.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right? Because like
I kind of wish there was no
if
bye.
Fournette if Fournette was out this week and they had a game to play and Rachaad White was the guy, Rachaad White could have had a huge game, and then it would have shifted that backfield even more.
Yeah, and me as the Leonard Fournette truther, I want to see Rachaad White play I want to see if Leonard Fournette would play with an injury, how things would shake out, just to get that clarity on how things are actually going. It might still be ambiguous now because we're missing this. They're missing this week on bye. I think that Rachaad White has really good upside. We talked about this every week. Your weekly reminder, pick up Rachaad White. That's the way it's going to be. We've been calling it out. If anything happens to Leonard Fournette, it just did. So I think there's a really good chance that he sees a lot more run the rest of the way.
I don't think he's going to be on this waiver wire list next week. I have a feeling, and I have faith in everybody here. Actually, I'll say
we've had faith for a while.
The people on this, like people who listen to this podcast, I would say like 65% of them probably have Rachaad White on their team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not even just saying like 65% of people didn't drop Rachaad White. I'm saying like 65% probably have Rachaad White on their team. I get a lot of Rachaad White questions, like, text community and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. You guys have been listening. But yeah, pick him up if he's available, please. Donovan Peoples-Jones at number 6 here. This is the highest he's been, but another upper hand waiver wire veteran. Right, his last 6 games, 71 yards, and I do this every week. I talk about, like, last week I said his last 5 games, and the week before that his last 4 games. Well, now it's 6 games, and it's 71 yards receiving, 50 yards, 74, 71, 81, and now 99 yards receiving on 5 catches and 9 targets. So solid floor play every single week, even this week in Buffalo.
Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones is the anti-Amari Cooper. He doesn't have the ceiling, but he also doesn't leave you out to dry. It doesn't matter where Donovan Peoples-Jones plays, home or away, he will produce for you. And it looked really good.
The matchup has never mattered either.
Yeah, matchup doesn't matter. He's produced for you week in and week out. And what people forget, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's actually a pretty good receiver. Deshaun Watson's coming back. This has a chance to really open up for the Browns offense. Obviously Amari Cooper's kind of been the guy so far, but they could definitely have 2 fantasy relevant receivers with a guy that's a little bit more dynamic than Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, he's been serviceable, but he's played like a backup. He's been able to produce a couple good finishes for his receivers. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones' ceiling is a lot higher once Deshaun Watson comes back and he's back in the lineup. He could be a decent buy. I mean, I'm not sure anybody who has him is going to move off of him. If he's sitting on the waiver wire, you're probably not going to have to. But maybe this could be a really good ad for you if he's sitting on your waiver wire, because if I'm saying that you might be able to buy him because of Deshaun Watson coming back, there could be really a lot of value, a big momentum swing in your league if you could get Donovan Peoples-Jones.
For sure. And then I have Gus Edwards here at number 7. Remember, he had that hamstring injury before their bye, right? And his teammate is going to be on IR for a little bit longer. Okay, so Gus Edwards is going to be the starter if he's healthy. Kenyon Drake will probably be the starter if Gus Edwards is not ready. But listen, like, as long as Gus Edwards is the starter, you could start him as like a low-end RB2 with a lot of touchdown upside, right? He had 2 touchdowns the week before he got hurt. So, he's somebody, if you need a running back and you can't grab Pacheco and Gus Edwards is available, he's somebody that you should grab if you can.
Yeah, he's been on and off this waiver wire pickup list just because of the injury, but he's good. Any Ravens running back that's starting, I think they kind of fall into that low-end RB2 with touchdown upside. That's kind of where they fall. If they score touchdowns, then they're going to be a high RB2 pretty much. Anything outside of that's going to be low RB2 numbers. But Gus Edwards, if he's sitting on the waiver wire, there's no reason not to pick him up just because the Ravens backfield has been so banged up. It changes every week. I wouldn't count on him being a contributor each and every week the rest of the way, not just because of injury, but because other guys will be coming back. But he can win you. Not win you a couple weeks, but he can definitely fill in on your roster for these next 2-3 weeks.
Definitely. And his teammate Isaiah Likely. The reason why I have him here is because there's still a chance Mark Andrews might not play this week, right? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume that Mark Andrews plays, right? The way that Harbaugh has been talking about Andrews is like, yeah, he has a good chance of playing this week, and it's like he's leaving a little bit of room. He's leaving that door open for Andrews to potentially miss another game here. I know that Isaiah Likely only caught one ball, but it was a tough matchup against the Saints last week. At least he caught the touchdown. It was a tough matchup against the Saints. He still got a high target share from Lamar Jackson, even though he only caught one pass. I think he had 5 targets in that game. So going into this week, much better matchup. And I would start Isaiah Likely as a top 5 tight end this week, if Mark Andrews is out. So if you need a tight end, if there's a couple of tight end injuries this week. If you need one, pick him up.
Yeah. And we talked about Isiah Likely a lot. He is a receiver in a tight end's body. He matches up well with pretty much any linebacker that's going to be covering him. And I call him the only tight end handcuff in the league. I said every time we talk about Isiah Likely, but that's the truth because Lamar has no problem throwing to him. Obviously, they didn't connect on all 5 targets. They connected on one for a touchdown the last time they played together. But before that, he had a good week. There's no reason to think he can't get it done, especially with this Ravens offense just hurting at receiver. With Rashad Bateman out, they're missing a weapon there. Mark Andrews being out. Somebody has to catch a ball. Isaiah Likely can do it. He's super athletic. We talked about that in a couple of episodes, this podcast, and you had him pretty high in your rankings this offseason coming in because of his athleticism. So there's no reason not to have Isaiah Likely on your roster, especially with Mark Andrews' status still up in the air.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that I had him ranked highly like the week before, which I did. I think I had him ranked at number 2. And that was a bad call.
No, that's a fair ranking, I think. It looked fantastic. It looked like we had a home run ranking right there on that first, was it second drive they caught that touchdown? All right, already a catch for 24 yards and a touchdown. Awesome, but
I think that was the week where Dallas Goedert just like went off. Like he had like a huge game.
4 points, was it?
Yeah. He had a huge game. So next on this list, I have DeAndre Carter, and he's still available in a lot of leagues. There is a chance. So Brandon Staley said that Keenan Allen is going to practice this week. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that Keenan Allen will play. So if Keenan Allen doesn't play, like DeAndre Carter will still be in play. They're going up against the Chiefs this week. Okay. And Carter, his last 2 games, he's been solid, double-digit fantasy points each of the last 2 weeks. He caught that long touchdown early in the game against San Francisco. The Chiefs haven't been good against slot wide receivers. So this is adding up for DeAndre Carter to have another, solid game in PPR leagues against the Chiefs.
Yeah, and historically, these two teams, when they play each other, they put up a lot of points. The fireworks are aplenty between these two teams. Even though Keenan Allen and Mike Williams I don't think either of them are supposed to play. But Justin Herbert, I don't know if you watched him in the last game. He looked, obviously the stat line wasn't spectacular, but he seems to be like all the way back from whatever hurting that he had. And he's throwing the ball well. I think he looked good on that first drive and things kind of cooled off. I think that he has a much better schedule coming up these next few weeks. Kansas City, Arizona, Las Vegas, Miami, 4 straight good matchups that he should be able to capitalize on, even with these receivers, kind of being, the guys down the depth chart. But he can make them, decent and serviceable receivers. DeAndre Carter, he showed it last week that he's able to pick up a little bit of that slack. I think DeAndre Carter could be a good pickup.
Agreed. And then we have Cole Kmet, caught 5 touchdowns in the past 3 weeks. Turning into one of Justin Fields' favorite targets. And he got, a good amount of targets this week too. High target share. So Cole Kmet, somebody, if you need a tight end, more long-term than Isaiah Likely, but Isaiah Likely would have more upside if Mark Andrews' injury were to persist. You pick up Likely for this week, but Kmet will be that long-term ad if you rather have him.
Yeah, I like Cole Kmet just, as a tight end at this point because there aren't that many that you can pick from. Hayden Hurst used to be on my radar. Now he's kind of off my radar. Obviously he was on bye last week, but he's kind of cooled off. A bunch of these guys, especially if you had Gerald Everett and he just got injured, you're not sure what you're going to have with him moving forward. Cole Kmet could be a good pickup for you. These tight ends are pretty much, plug, replace. They'll move in and out of your lineup each week. But Cole Kmet, the way he's been playing, I'd be happy plugging him in. I don't have a problem with that.
100%. Treylon Burks at number 11. He's back. He played, he ran a ton of routes in this game. He looked like he's fully back, and he's going to have the most opportunity out of any of these wide receivers. I know that Nick Westbrook-Akina was the guy to have a big game, but we've seen that before from him, and he's disappeared before that. So Treylon Burks is the guy that you want on this offense. I wouldn't start him this week, but I would stash him. I would pick him up, put him on my bench, see what happens, see what the usage looks like. And that's pretty much how I would roll with it. we lost our producer, so all the graphics just disappeared. I have them up here, so I'm gonna add them myself. Sorry about technical difficulties here.
Yeah, but with Treylon Burks, we were kind of talking about his usage before he got injured. You know what I'm saying? Like that he was getting more targets. And I remember we talked about that one almost touchdown catch that wasn't. He has upside. You know, he's the best receiver I think that the Titans have moved forward, and they've been hurting at receiver. I mean, what was it? I think the Titans had no receivers catch a ball. Was it 2 weeks ago?
I think there was one or something like that.
Yeah. So somebody has to help out. They have to start using the receivers at some point. Treylon Burks is going to be the guy to get the ball in the hands of. I think he's going to be able to do a lot after the catch if they just give him the opportunity. This offense needs a passing dimension. Obviously, Derrick Henry looked like he was shouldering the load and he was able to just carry this offense single-handedly. Last week, that was not the case. Even though they did win against Denver, you know, it took a Nick Westbrook-Akina breakout game, you know, massive just overproduction to, you know, get them in the win column. That showed that they need help at wide receiver. Treylon Burks, he should be able to, you know, kind of fit in nicely and get some work. He deserves the work and he needs to get the work if this offense wants to move forward and actually stay competitive in games.
For sure. I mean, 76% rap participation in his first game back, 6 targets, 18% target share. Solid.
Yeah.
And that could go up moving forward. Alexander Mattison, I'm going to have him here number 12, you know, as a long-term ad, you know, just as a guy that you want to stash. People have been dropping him because of buys and all that. If he's available on your wire, you want to stash him, put him, you know, at the end of your bench because he's somebody that, you know, if Dalvin Cook were to go down, he becomes a hot, you know, a solid RB1, you know, moving forward. So these kind of guys you don't want to leave on your waiver wire this time of year. The buys are kind of reducing a little bit, not too many bye weeks. So keep that in mind. Alexander Mattison, you know, just stash him right now.
Yeah. He's one of the easy stashes because we know what he is as a handcuff.
Exactly. He's a high-end handcuff, and there's not too many of them. So he's one of he's like one of him, you know, Tony Pollard, Rachaad White, you know, these guys are going to be the top guys.
I feel like Tony Pollard is kind of ascended above the handcuff label. You know, I mean,
I know he is. I just mean like, you know, if the running back in front of him were to get hurt, like what does he become? You know, Rachaad White, same thing. You know, what does he become? You know, I think they become like solid RB1 plays, you know, at the very least.
Rachaad White is on the brink of standalone value. Tony Pollard has a standalone value.
They both have standalone value.
Alexander Madison's a true handcuff where, you know, he's not going to get very many touches. If Dalvin Cook doesn't, if he is playing, but once Dalvin Cook goes down, Madison's leading that backfield.
100%. Darius Slayton at 13 here. He's been leading the Giants wide receiver core, you know, over the past several weeks. You know, we wanted it to happen with Wan'Dale Robinson, but at this point, we might have to just be a little honest with ourselves and really declare who the Giants wide receiver one is. And I think it's Darius Slayton. So, you know, if you miss out on DPJ, guys like that, pick up Darius Slayton. You know, it seems like he has around a 10-point PPR floor right now. If that's what you're looking for, just for some solid depth at wide receiver, if you're hurting there, you know, you could pick up Slayton. I would not worry about matchups with him. He's got it done in like, you know, not so amazing matchups. You know, it's not like he went off. You know, and I'm not saying to pick up Darius Slayton because he had that long touchdown. Like that was good to see. But he was on this waiver wire list before, and he is going up against Detroit next week. So good matchup.
Yeah, very good matchup. I feel like this Giants wide receiver situation is going to be fluid, you know, moving forward. I don't know who Isaiah Hodgins is, but he had a couple catches. Yeah, that was a couple, was it 2 days ago? Wan'Dale Robinson, I was really hoping that he would kind of, you know, carve himself out a role. And it seems like his role is there. It's just minimal. You know what I mean? Yeah. The way that this offense is playing, it runs through Saquon Barkley, which makes sense. They gave him 35 carries on Sunday. So they didn't have to throw the ball much. And with Daniel Jones at quarterback, that might be a good thing. I wouldn't trust any of these guys to have like league winning upside. I wouldn't trust any of these guys to have week winning upside. But like you said, the floor seems to be good enough with Darius Slayton moving forward that he should be able to be in your lineup and you won't have to be, you know, rolling in your sleep over him putting up 2 points. He should be able to catch at least a few balls for each week.
Exactly. You know, Slayton, 24% target share this past week, and he had more than 20% target share in his last 3 games. So, you know, worth noting, and someone like that should be on rosters, at least in 12-team leagues.
Yeah.
Nico Collins, you know, played over, you know, so Houston wide receivers. Brandon Cooks was stripped of his captain title. They ripped that C off his chest. He said,
"Give me that.
You will not be our captain."
Yeah.
And they let Nico Collins be their wide receiver 1, and he did his thing. So, yeah, man. Like, now at this point, you're looking at Nico Collins as their wide receiver 1 potentially. Okay.
Mhm.
Did he have 10 targets or was it 9?
Yeah, 10 targets.
Yeah, he had 10 targets in this game. So something you want to look out for. He caught that touchdown. They're going to be in negative game scripts a lot. So you might want to pay attention to Nico Collins, somebody that, a lot of people are fans of Nico Collins. I'm not like a fanboy of his or anything like that, but a lot of dynasty guys are like Nico Collins truthers. I'm not one of them, but he has a chance now moving forward with them reducing Brandon Cook's snaps now and his routes run. We could see Nico Collins have some value the rest of the way.
Yeah. The Nico Collins is getting his value primarily because Brandon Cooks is, kind of being relegated to a spot performer.
Only 63% of dropbacks route percentage for Brandon Cooks. So that's not good. That means that they're taking snaps away from him.
Yeah. So there was a big fallout at the trade deadline, obviously, with Brandon Cooks. I think Brandon Cooks didn't realize when he signed his contract, he saw the dollar signs, and he was like, all right, I'll sign this contract. And then he realized that he's not going to be happy in Houston. So that's pretty obvious. It seems like the relationship between the franchise and Brandon Cooks is fractured. I think that's going to end up hurting Brandon Cooks the rest of the way. The upside that I thought Brandon Cooks had just kind of fell out. Davis Mills is not very good. So now Nico Collins becomes a wide receiver 1. Davis Mills' wide receiver 1 is on the waiver wire, ladies and gentlemen. Who wants him? We'll start bids at $1. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what it's going to be.
Pretty much.
I don't think you have trouble picking him up if you want him. You shouldn't have to throw too much fab at him. But
no.
This is a prospective ad, even though it might seem like he's right in line for more workload. I think that it's going to be a relatively low ceiling for him.
Yeah. I got Deshaun Watson at number 15. If you need a quarterback, he's going to be coming back in week 14, I think it is. No, week 13? Week 13.
I think it's 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, against the Texans. Who else?
Yeah. Of course. So Deshaun Watson, when he's back, he might become a quarterback 1. He might be a high-end quarterback 1. Who knows? There's a lot of range of outcomes for Deshaun Watson. But if you're hurting at quarterback, you didn't get a chance to pick up Justin Fields, pick up Deshaun and see what happens. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. Trey McBride, I have him at 16 here because Zach Ertz is out for the season with a knee injury, unfortunately. Yeah. So Trey McBride, obviously the most highly touted rookie tight end coming into the league. He was the first one picked in the draft. He won the Mackey Award as the best tight end last year in college football. So pick him up. I have some history with Trey McBride. We were at the Senior Bowl and we interviewed him and all that. It was dope as hell. He's a good dude. So I'm hoping he succeeds. But, he played almost every single snap in this game when Zach Ertz went down. Zach Ertz went down pretty early in that game, and McBride basically took over that role. So he's a prospective ad. I don't know how comfortable I feel starting him this week, but if you're in need, he's going to run a ton of routes. So I wouldn't mind putting him out there, especially if Kyler Murray's playing.
I wouldn't mind putting Trey McBride out there either. This is, like you said, the highest touted tight end prospect coming out of this year's class. And it's not like fantastic class. There's no such thing really as like an extremely good tight end class. I mean, unless maybe this one coming up. But with Trey McBride, I think he can slide right into Zach Ertz' role. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to suddenly stop throwing the tight ends now that it's not Zach Ertz. He's been using Zach Ertz the whole season. He's had a solid floor for each and every week. And that's all you can really ask for out of a tight end in 2022. So Trey McBride, if, we know Zach Ertz is going to play, I feel like I'd be okay sliding him in if I don't have anybody better. If I've been streaming my tight ends the whole season, I put Trey McBride in and hope that he can just kind of be my guy the rest of the way. I
got Jerick McKinnon here at number 17. All he is a depth running back. He's an RB3, PPR RB3. Just if you're looking for 8 to 12 points in a PPR league, now that the distribution is between only 2 running backs, McKinnon gets a slight bump here as well because he's going to be running slightly higher percentage of routes now that CEH is out, because CEH was also running some routes too. So, if you're in a deep league and you need running backs and to get some running back depth, McKinnon won't leave you out to dry most weeks going forward.
Yeah, I don't think McKinnon is going to be, like you said, he gets a slight bump. It's an extremely slight bump for me. The only thing that would give him that little bump would be the fact that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 0 carries last week. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have 0 carries next week or touches. I think he's going to get a couple touches at least each game. I think it's difficult at that point with the way they've been using him before. It's been a committee backfield for Clyde Edwards-Helaire not to touch a ball at least once. but definitely trending away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that gives Jerick McKinnon that bump that you're talking about. Like you said, this isn't somebody that's going to win you your league, but if you have an injury last minute, you need somebody to start on the spot, Jerick McKinnon can do that.
Definitely. All right, just to wrap this up real quick, we got Kyron Williams at 18. He played a solid number of snaps. He was the passing down back in his first game with the team. Cooper Kupp is out, so maybe some more targets going his way. Also, he has the possibility of rising to the top of this running back room ahead of Darrell Henderson. So I'm still stashing him as of right now. Ben Skoranek, I have him at 19 here because I'm assuming, like you mentioned yesterday, he's Cooper Kupp's clone, and it's possible that he ends up being the primary slot receiver with Cooper Kupp, set to miss several weeks here. At this point, he does have a high ankle sprain. He'll probably out 4 to 6 weeks, I'm assuming. So for the rest of the year, you might be able to, depend on Skoranek as like a PPR wide receiver 3. That's kind of his ceiling to me. So he's a prospective ad. I don't want to start him, but I wouldn't be surprised if after week 11, Skoranek has like 9 targets for like 67 yards, right? So that's kind of what I'm picking him up for.
Yeah, the floor is what you're picking up Ben Skoranek for. I would actually put him over Kyron Williams just because I think Skoranek is more in line for more workload. And maybe it's just me undervaluing running backs on the waiver wire. I just said that I put Parris Campbell, Kadarius Toney, Christian Watson over like Rachaad White, and I forget who the other guy was. That we
Pacheco
already. Yeah, Pacheco. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I already forgot. Yeah, I'm so hyped up on Pacheco that I forgot where he was ranked on these waiver wire pickup rankings. But yeah, I would put Ben Skoranek over him just because I think that his workload's a little bit more guaranteed. Darrell Henderson did score a touchdown last week. Obviously, we're not going to anticipate that every week. The way that this Rams backfield is, the offense is not very good. They were missing Stafford last week. I think he does come back and it'll be a little bit better, but the touchdown upside remains relatively low, especially with Cooper Kupp out. It should be interesting to see. I'm a little bit worried about this Rams offense now that Cooper Kupp is out. Yeah. He was driving the offense forward, and without that, things could get messy.
They're gonna suck. Yeah. Isaiah McKenzie, I hear, had number 20. Just to wrap it up, his route percentage has been increasing a ton. Ran 80% on dropbacks this past week. So worth noting, even though he didn't have a huge game, you want to pay attention to Josh Allen's wide receivers, right? And that's pretty much it. We're gonna wrap it up here, guys. We appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Check me out on Instagram at Upperhand Fantasy. Zach is at Upperhand Zach on Instagram as well. And subscribe to the podcast. It means the world to us. Appreciate you guys. Take it easy. Good luck on waivers. See ya.